Dee, and it's called Agatha's Feather Bed. My friend, Agatha, has a little shop in the big city between two tall skyscrapers. And in her shop, she spins yarn into thread and weaves thread into cloth. And the colors of the yarn she spins and the patterns of the cloth she weaves are so beautiful that people come from everywhere to buy her wares. One day, there was a little boy in her store with his mother, and he was bored. So he started playing with a little piece of shiny red material. Agatha leaned down next to him and said, "That's silk. Do you know where silk comes from?" "No," said the little boy. "It comes from worms," said Agatha. "Worms," said the little boy. "Yeah." "What about this?" he said, and he picked up a ball of purple cotton yarn and said, "What kind of worms does this come from?" And Agatha said, "That's cotton. It doesn't come from worms. It comes from a cotton boll that grows right out of the ground." "Wow," said the little boy. "What about all this other stuff? Does it come from neat places too?" "Yes," said Agatha. "This is wool. It comes from sheep," said the little boy. "That one's easy." "Well, what about this? Feel this material. Feel how stiff it is. It's linen. Do you know where linen comes from?" "No," said the little boy. "It comes from a plant called flax." "Let me tell you something," said Agatha. "Something I tell all my customers, but especially the children. Everything comes from something. Nothing comes from nothing. Just like paper comes from trees and glass comes from sand. An answer comes from a question. All you have to do is ask." And that made the little boy smile. As soon as all the customers had left her shop that day, Agatha locked the door and went up the stairs to her apartment over the shop. She could hardly wait to get there, for that very day, a new feather mattress had arrived from her favorite catalog company, B.B. Lean. Her old mattress was like sleeping on coal lumps and cherry pits, but this new mattress was so soft and comfy, she could hardly wait to try it out. So Agatha quickly changed into her nightgown and brushed and flossed her teeth. And then she took the tortoise shell combs out of her hair, and her long white hair fell and fell and fell until it lay in swirls around her feet. She picked up her boar bristle brush and started her 100 strokes, but she only made it to 37. She could hardly wait to try out that mattress. And oh yes, it was just as soft and comfortable as she'd imagined. And in no time, Agatha was dreaming. But in her dreams, she heard strange sounds, rustlings and bumps and the pattering of tiny feet. And then she sat up in bed when she heard a loud bang as the window closed shut. And Agatha looked at the window and saw there, hovering outside on her windowsill, 6 naked geese. They were shivering in the cold and covered with goosebumps. She had caught them just as they ducked out. At last, Agatha got out of bed and opened the window and said, "May I help you?" And one little goose whose name was Sydney, stepped in and said, "Agatha, we want our feathers back." "What?" said Agatha. She was so surprised you could have knocked her over with a feather. "What?" And the little goose pointed his little pink wing at her feather bed and said, "Agatha, we've been listening. Everything comes from something, nothing comes from something. Well, where do you think the feathers in that feather bed came from? Look at us. We want our feathers back." Well, Agatha just did not know what to say. She looked at her wonderful feather mattress and she looked at those poor, naked, shivering geese. She looked at her mattress. She looked at the geese and somehow she knew her goose was cooked. But then she had an idea. I tell you what, she said, trust me on this. Come back in 3 days and see if I can make it right. Just 3 days. And she gave them her credit card as a sign of good faith so they could book up at the downtown hotel. And the geese flew off into the night. As soon as they were gone, Agatha got right to work. She got out her scissors and locked the door of her shop, and for 3 days she did not speak to anyone. She worked, and on the third night she was ready. She was lying in her feather bed with her covers pulled up to her chin when the geese came to call, and this time she was ready. She'd left the window open, so they ducked in one by one, and of course Sydney was talking. "Oh, Agatha, we had such a good time at that hotel. The manager kept trying to give us a bill, and we said, no thanks. The last thing we need is another bill." But even Sydney grew quiet when he saw what was on the wall of Agatha's bedroom. 6 soft, fleecy white coats. Agatha had spun and woven and sewn each one. Oh, well, each of the geese tried on their little jackets and took a gander at themselves in the mirror. And the coats fit perfectly. "Oh, Agatha," said Sydney, "these coats are beautiful, but whatever are they made from?" And then Agatha sat up in bed, and the geese could clearly see that the coats were made from Agatha's hair. "Ah, what's good for the goose is good for the gander," said Agatha. "I have your feathers, you have my hair. Oh, Agatha, you keep us in stitches." Well, the geese leapt quietly into the night, and Agatha never heard a honk from them again. But she did keep finding goose eggs on her doorstep, and we all know where those come from. But if you were to visit my friend Agatha in her store, her little shop between the 2 skyscrapers, you would still hear her say, "Everything comes from something. Nothing comes from nothing. Just like paper comes from trees and glass comes from sand. An answer comes